Hello. This is a presentation that Joris Bremons put together. So Joris is the project lead for Hammr. I'm just presenting the slides. Joris has told me the messages, but so I hope I won't make any mistakes in this. So what's Hammr? Hammr is first of all, it's an OW2 project. It's a command line tool written in Python. I'm realizing the URL here is the old URL for accessing to the project dashboard, but you'll find all the information on the OW2 website about Hammr. We also have a hammr.io website, and the source code is hosted on GitHub. And so what is Hammr? It's a command line tool which allows you to model your application, model your stack, and to be able to, from one model, produce different machine images from a single configuration file. So in short, on the left here, you have what we call the template. The template represents your application. It's a JSON file together with the binaries, if you have any binaries included in your application. And with Hammr, we connect to a UForge server, so you have a UForge online service which is accessible from the UShaSoft website, and otherwise through AppHub, which we'll present later on together with Stefan, and which Cedric has mentioned this morning. You can create self-service an account on AppHub, and AppHub hosts what we call the factory in AppHub, which is a UForge server, which will generate the images for you. And you can also export, if you have Hammr templates there, you can re-export them as a full bundle, which you can then share with other people. So Hammr is a Python command line tool, so installing Hammr, the full documentation is on the website, but typically you need Python 2.7, you need pip, and then you just do pip install Hammr, and then you can check which version you've got installed. And as a command line, if you just type Hammr -- help, it will give you a list of all the different commands. So how does it work? How can you create and manage your application stacks with Hammr? So you write a template file, which is a configuration file. So we now offer, so that's part of the novelties since this year, we now offer a YAML syntax as well as JSON. And you have mainly two sections in the file. You have one section which describes your application using the stack keyword. I'll show a quick example later on. You have another section called builders, which allow you to define which type of image you want to generate. And if you have cloud accounts, there's another section that describes where you want to publish the image to OW2 Stack, to Ikula, to wherever. So this will allow you to publish the image, if it's a cloud type image, to your cloud provider. So this is a simple example where you want to have, do you want to describe your application? So this one is simply based on Debian version 8. It's called Nginx, and you only define what we call a minimal OS profile. I'll explain that very quickly later on. And you just say that for Nginx you need the Nginx package. So this is, of course, very simple. You may want to add other things. So here you've got a stack keyword which describes your stack, your application, the OS keyword which describes the operating system profile, and you have also the installation keyword where you can put other types of information. So basically a stack as it's described here. So in the installation profile you can add things like kernel parameter, define your partitioning, say whether you want DHCP or not, choose your keyboard, your time zone. In the OS profile, we offer the possibility just to choose from 3 predefined types, which is minimal with desktop or server, and then you can add all the OS packages that you want or that you know you need. In the My Software, you can actually upload bundles. So this is where, for example, you would have your application binaries. So if you want to build a doc.docu template, you would put the doc.docu source code in there or packages. And in the configuration, this is where you would add your boot scripts. So typically the scripts that you write when you want to configure the application. So, well, you can validate the syntax. Otherwise, you can just say template create minus the file, which is the YAML file. And this will validate the file and create on the UForge server a template, which is an object representing your application. It will also upload all the binaries that you need. So at this stage, you've just created an object of type template on the server, and you can list also all the templates that you have. So here I've got my Nginx Debian 8 template, and the next section would be defining which images you want to, which image or images you want to generate from this template. So here I've got an example of an OpenStack image, where in a separate file I define what my OpenStack account is. I'll show that in a minute. And for OpenStack, you need to specify also, when you want to publish, you need to specify the tenant and the image name as it will appear in your library, and an optional description. For other types of cloud, you have different sections, so the whole documentation is on the website. Some ask you whether it's public or private. It depends on the target cloud, really. So here you've got the cloud credentials, which is the OW2 stack account, where you have the image endpoint and the keystone endpoint for authentication. For other types of clouds, you may have to provide keys. So for example, this is the case for Amazon. In the case of Cloud Stack, it's very similar. You provide an endpoint and a user password. So again, depends on the type of cloud. So once you've done that, you need to what we call create the account. So basically, you import your credentials into the platform by doing Hammr account create. And then you just call Hammr template build. So what this will do is it will reuse the template, so your description of your application, and it will generate a machine image for that template. So generating a machine image takes some time. It depends on the size, of course, of the image, the complexity of whatever packages you have to install during the generation. Could take anything between 5 and 10, 15 minutes. And at the end of it, you've got an image ID here, which is returned to you, which is the image that you will be able to publish. So here, the next command, if you want to publish your image to your OW2 stack glance library, you just do Hammr image publish -- ID, and you pass in parameter also the YAML file that describes what the template is. And that's it. So basically, you've published your image to your cloud. This is where we stop. Then you go to your OpenStack console or to your Cloud Stack console or to your Amazon EC2 console to be able to manipulate the image, start an instance from it. So basically, you describe your template, you generate the image from the same template to the format of your choice, and then you can publish it to your cloud environment. If you generate other images of type, I don't know, VirtualBox or OVA, OVF, you can download them and use them locally if you want to use them on your local hypervisor on your desktop. So we support a number of target machine image formats, which are listed here, and okay. So in the title of the presentation, there were 2 points that we wanted to talk about a little bit more. So I've got 5 minutes left, I believe. One, which is the Docker integration. So basically, we treat Docker as one of the target formats. So technically speaking, it's a tar.gz file. What we do when you generate a Docker image with Hammr, we actually generate a self-contained Docker base image containing the base. So as opposed to Docker layers, where, okay, you've got your layers, but you don't really have a full control of what your Docker server will bring you in terms of versions of packages. Here, you generate the full stack, so you have the control of all the operating system packages and the versions. So it gives you a bit more control about the software packages that will be present in your image. Also, for the sake of transparency, you'll be able to visualize all the packages that are in this image, and you would gain in consistency compared to just the Docker layer. The disadvantage is that it's heavier. So, just to summarize, since last time we presented Hammr, which I believe was last year, we've added the YAML support, so not just JSON, but also YAML. Also, in the previous version where you wanted to add your binaries, you had to wrap them in an archive. Now you can just point to a directory. You don't have to wrap them. We've also added compatibility to the the latest release of U4 App Center, which is the server that allows you to do the image generation. We've added some CLAD formats, particularly the outscale, and the documentation's been moved to read the docs and GitHub, so the documentation itself is open source as well. And in the Outlook, as I said about Docker, at the moment, the fact that you generate a full image gives you the advantage of having the whole stack, but it's heavier, so we also want to be able to model just the layers. So that's the next thing in the roadmap, and assemble a stack from different existing layers that you might have in your library. So the library will be a library of templates, not only being full stacks, but also layers, and you'll be able to assemble those layers. Also, one functionality I haven't spoken about is you don't have to create your stack from scratch. You can also what we call scan existing workloads. It's what we call migration or scan. So if you have already a machine that's running, you run a scan binary on this machine, and that will import what we call a scan from which you can generate a template. So that could be an easier way than just doing it from scratch. And so there's some authentication modes on this source workload. At the moment, it's on a user password base, and we want to allow API keys as well. And also in the terms of bundles, so as I said very briefly before, the boot scripts are separated from the binaries. So if you have several binaries in your stack, several applications, you want to attach the boot scripts, the configuration scripts, individually to each application. So if you want to combine, I don't know, a web server and a database and a docu and a whatever, each of them will have their own scripts, and you want to be able to bundle the binaries together with a script. So this is an improvement that's coming by the end of the year, where we remodel the way we package, or the user packages its binaries together with its scripts. So we put them together rather than separating them. And also, when we build the image, this is my last slide. When we build the image, the scripts, the configuration scripts are not executed, they're executed at the first boot. So we want to also allow the ability to run some of the configuration scripts at the image build time. So this will make the first boot of the machine much faster, and will boot with already pre-configured applications. So it's open source, it's OW2. Please use it, and please contribute to it. Thanks very much.